Hello, my name is Paul Haverfield. I'm the Storage Principal Technologist with Hewlett-Packard in the Asia Pacific and Japan region. Thank you very much for your time today. I do appreciate time is limited with everybody these days. And what I'd like to cover in this session is a ever-increasing sort of a topical topic around what's happening within mid-range and high-end storage. So, 10, 20 years ago, storage used to be quite clear and simple in that there were storage arrays, storage products that were very clearly targeted at high-end enterprise, tier 1, tier 0 storage, and then there were very separate storage arrays that were targeted towards mid-range or maybe tier 1.5 or tier 2 storage. Typically these storage products were very different. They had different architectures, they had different operating systems, different management firmware, management interfaces, etc. And they required quite different skills to be able to manage them and operate them and optimize them. Typically, the mid-range storage was always a compromise of functionality. The mid-range customer typically was always more price conscious, more price sensitive, and what that meant was that the mid-range storage product was a trade-off of compromises. We're delivering a product to a price in the marketplace to be competitive. So functionality always came later or was a trade-off for that mid-range customer. In those days of clearly differentiated and separate high-end and mid-range storage, we typically had, a few workloads sharing an array. These days we have modern workload virtualization technologies such as VMware, Hyper-V, Citrix, etc. These modern virtualized workloads place very different requirements on storage arrays to be able to satisfy the mixed workload multi-tenancy requirements of a virtualization, which is very different to yesterday's sort of single tenant workload type approach. So these changes that we see today between virtualization of workloads and the bringing together and the requirement for a single converged storage architecture across mid-range and high-end brings about a whole new set of requirements that just didn't exist in the legacy day of separate mid-range, separate high-end. We've got a couple of good lists here where we can we can compare side by side, some of the attributes of legacy mid-range versus what we typically should see today in a modern mid-range product. And these are the concepts of like physical and static versus virtualized and agile, seamless and transparent growth versus disruptive growth, simple management versus complex management, ability to scale, the capacity and the performance of a storage array versus the classic problem with a mid-range array of either being able to scale capacity or performance but not both at the same time, etc. High availability is also an interesting area, where our legacy mid-range was typically a dual controller architecture. And this particular architecture has been impacted heavily by the fact that when one controller fails, you lose 50% of the performance on the array. Whereas a modern mid-range cluster solution, you will not lose 50% of your capacity of your performance when you have a single node, single controller failure. So HP spends a lot of time talking to customers and organizations, C-level people, decision makers in the IT infrastructure, and we're pretty sure we know what customers want when they're assessing new storage requirements. Typically we see three primary use cases for storage today. These are primary storage, information retention and analytics, and then information protection. With primary storage, customers typically want seamless delivery of services. So the focus is shifting away from the technology and the speeds and feeds, and it's moving more towards the concept of IT service delivery. The beginnings of this is typically virtualization, and then later leads into cloud computing, whether it's private or public, it doesn't really matter. Then we have the concept of information retention and analytics. So this is where, we want you to be able to derive more value from your information. Everybody's information holdings are growing, they're keeping more data, they're storing more data, they're keeping it for longer. So we want you to be able to extract more value from that information. So it actually delivers a return to you, and you can monetize that inherent value that you obtain out of storing that additional information. And then lastly, reducing your risk exposure through better information protection solutions, whether it's deduplication for backup, whether it's higher availability solutions and replication for disaster recovery, etc. And we believe the HP Converged Storage portfolio is the best in the industry for delivering what these three primary use cases and requirement areas are for storage. So I mentioned HP Converged Storage. HP is radically changing the industry's perception of what converged storage is all about. At HP, we believe on converged management. This is a single common framework approach between servers, networks, and storage, where you don't have to learn different tools, different interfaces to be able to manage IT infrastructure. We believe in an approach called federated software, where we can scale out both the hardware and the software in a non-disruptive manner, so as you can grow both your data, your platforms seamlessly in a very transparent way to your organization. And of course, this is all based on a standard Intel x86 based hardware architecture. We're not about proprietary hardware platforms, we're about standard x86 based platforms that deliver into this scale out federated software based approach with a converged management layer across the top. This is what we call converged storage. The overarching theme for converged storage is what we call polymorphic simplicity. Now this is something new in the context of storage that you may not have heard before, so I'll just take a minute to explain it. Polymorphic simplicity refers to the basic architectural approach of HP storage, where we provide one system architecture which can be deployed in many different shapes, forms, or fashions. So we have one architecture for primary storage, one architecture for information protection, retention, and analytics, and an architecture for block, object, and file. Together, these architectures can be deployed in different forms, different shapes, and different sizes with a common management layer across the top. So this is very simple, and we call it polymorphic simplicity. The 3-par StoreServ, the 10,000 series that we see here pictured, has long been the gold baseline reference for Tier 1 storage in virtual data centers delivering IT as a service. It's been very well accepted by a service provider customer base, where HP 3-par currently has 7 out of the top 10 service providers or cloud providers using 3-par storage. What our customers in this area tell us is that with 3-par storage, they spend 90% less time managing storage compared to previous products that they had. They're able to achieve 2 times the capacity efficiency with 3-par storage through our thin technologies. They're able to double their VM density per server, and in fact we have a guarantee program that we will offer you a guarantee to double your VM density on 3-par storage. And most famously, 3-par in the data center in this service provider space has been very well accepted for its federated approach. Storage federation between 3-par systems allows us to non-disruptively move data, move volumes between systems to achieve workload balancing, to achieve life cycle management of 3PAR assets without any disruption to the actual workload or the servers, the applications running on that particular 3PAR array. Recently, we introduced the new HP StoreServ 7000. This is the newest entry-level and mid-range platform within the 3PAR family. It shares all of the same high-end features as the 3PAR StoreServ 10,000 product, yet it's positioned in terms of capacity, performance, and most importantly, pricing at an entry-level mid-range price range. It carries with it all exactly the same attributes as the high-end StoreServ 10,000, except there's a few areas here that we like to point out for the mid-range storage area, which quite often, in the past was something that mid-range customers had to give up with that trade-off, that compromise that I mentioned earlier. One of the big areas here is the high availability. The StoreServ 7000 is a bulletproof product. It comes in a quad controller, quad cluster architecture. This allows you to have the absolute maximum high availability storage array product with a 4-controller architecture at a mid-range price. No other vendor gives you the ability to do this at such a competitive price point within the industry. So many of our customers that have already experienced the StoreServ 7000 have given us some critical and vital feedback here that you can see on the screen. These customers have typically been new to 3PAR, they've migrated to 3PAR maybe from the EVA, which they loved for many years, and they found that migration was very simple, very quick, and completely seamless, non-disruptive for their organisation. Some of these customers also, were other competitive vendor Tier 1 customers, and they came to 3PAR and have been able to acknowledge the simplicity of managing 3PAR compared to other Tier 1 arrays. So this is something I'd encourage you to have a look at further. We've got some great videos on YouTube here where these customers talk about their storage in a lot more detail. So what we're looking at here is the complete range at present of the HP 3PAR StoreServ family. We start at the very bottom, very entry level here of a 2-node, 2-controller system that we call the StoreServ 7200. You then have the ability to move to a 7400, which is a quad controller, quad node clustered 3PAR storage solution. In the middle then we have a StoreServ 10400 or the StoreServ 10.4 and its big brother, the StoreServ 10800. And the fantastic feature about the entire 3PAR family is they all share exactly the same firmware, the same software, the same management interface, the same look and feel, the same everything. So as a storage administrator, you don't have to learn different technologies, different interfaces for managing your different storage array products in different areas of your IT infrastructure. So this is an attribute of HP 3PAR that we believe we're the only ones in the industry that can do this. If you looked at crossing this sort of entry-level, mid-range, high-end from other vendors, you could easily have 2, 3 or 4 different storage array products to achieve this same degree of scalability of capacity and scalability of performance from that low end to mid-range to high end. So some of the core features that 3PAR has been famous for, particularly in the service provider market traditionally, but now in the mainstream IT market in everyday customers just like yourself, it's very well known for being autonomic and effortless. What this means is that HP 3PAR basically manages itself. You don't have to spend a lot of time managing 3PAR like you do traditional arrays. You don't need to maintain Excel spreadsheets to track where your LUNs are and where the data's mapped. 3PAR will do this all for you autonomically without you having to think about it, without having to do a lot of micro planning, detailed investigation into your storage before you configure the 3PAR array. Next, StoreServ 3PAR is very well known for being incredibly efficient. 3PAR StoreServ actually introduced to the market the first open systems thin provisioning technology ever. It's become very well known as being the benchmark for thin technologies, including thin provisioning, since that technology was first introduced. We're also the first vendor to introduce what we call autonomic sublun tiering. So this is where we're able to optimize your data placement across multiple media technologies like solid state disk, fiber channel or fast class disk, and slower, higher capacity nearline disk. The beauty of this solution is that the 3PAR adaptive optimization technology, it does all the hard work for you. It works out your hot data, your warm data, and your cold data, and it places those regions into the correct media layer automatically without you having to even think about it. I'll just go into a little bit more now, a little bit more detail on thin technologies. You know, it's probably true that most vendors, if not all vendors today, have what we call thin provisioning. Thin provisioning allows you to start thin. And that's where most vendors, start and finish. With 3PAR, however, our thin technology suite is a complete life cycle story. We allow you to start thin with thin provisioning. We allow you to get thin through thin conversion processes, and we have multiple processes where we can convert thick volumes or chubby volumes into thin volumes and reclaim space dynamically as we do the conversion online in real time without any application disruption. And then we have the ability, lastly, and perhaps most importantly, to stay thin over time. So in a hypervisor world such as VMware or Hyper-V, for example, many customers are continuously creating and deleting virtual machines. This has the impact of allocating storage and then releasing storage, on a very high rate of churn. And it's very important that the storage array has the ability to reclaim that space that's been deleted by the hypervisor at the very lowest level within the array and return 100% of that deleted space back to the array to be reallocated to new virtual machines without any wastage and without any inefficiency, and most importantly, without any manual intervention from the storage administrator. So this is what we take very high amount of pride in 3PAR, is the ability to stay thin over time. So I'd encourage you to have this discussion with your vendor and have them outline the full suite of thin technologies that allow you to maximize your storage efficiency from birth to death, from cradle to grave. And this is an example here of some of the benefits we saw at a very large global banking customer of ours that uses 3PAR storage for their internal IT. They migrated approximately 270 terabytes of EMC DMX storage to 3PAR. This migration was done online and it was non-disruptive. And after the migration, they compared the capacity savings of the old EMC configuration on the DMXs with how much capacity they actually ended up utilizing on the 3PAR. The net result was a 50% reduction in capacity requirements. This 50% saving in capacity saved this customer $3 million in upfront capacity purchases. And in actual fact, this type of program, this type of example has been so successful, this has led us to offering our Get Thin guarantee, where we'll be able to do an assessment of an environment of yours, your configuration, and we'll be able to assess your capacity needs and offer you a capacity guarantee where you can reduce your storage requirements by 50% by migrating to 3PAR storage. The next attribute of StoreServ, HP 3PAR StoreServ, that's very important in a virtualization environment and particularly in the mid-range area today, is the concept of multi-tenancy and high availability. The mid-range storage space today no longer just has one or two applications sharing a storage array. You will typically have, anywhere around 50 to 100 physical servers that could have, thousands of virtual machines running on those physical servers. Each one of those virtual machines is a tenant. It's probably running an application. So you can have thousands of tenants, thousands of applications sharing a mid-range storage array. So the ability of that storage array to efficiently handle mixed workloads, to be able to handle extreme random workloads across the entire physical capacity of the array is very, very important. It's vital. It's the only way you'll achieve success in your virtualization project if your storage array is very efficiently supporting a multi-tenant workload environment. And then, as always, a high availability, never goes away, it's never diminished. So the storage array in a virtualization environment in this new mid-range, we're putting, a lot more eggs in our basket. So we don't want any situation where the loss of a single controller will radically deteriorate the performance within the virtualization environment. And this is where the 3-PAR cluster architecture excels at delivering a very resilient and very secure separation of storage within a multi-tenant environment. Then next we have the concept of being federated and future-proof. So federated and future-proof refers to 3PAR's ability to prepare for the future by providing you technologies that allow you to keep your data mobile and migrate your data volumes from one 3PAR array to another 3PAR array seamlessly and transparently to your application. Every 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, you replace your storage infrastructure typically. And typically, the storage administrator faces a challenge at that point in time. How do they migrate their data from one storage array to another storage array? Now, typically, technologies like VMware Storage vMotion can be used for small amounts of data migration. But if you've got a very large data migration project to migrate or evacuate an entire storage array, then you typically want something that's more efficient, that doesn't impost on the hosts so much. And this is where the 3PAR Storage Federation solution delivers you a future-proof capability for data migration and technology refresh. This sets us apart within the industry. It's a very unique capability, and this is something that's just inherent within the 3PAR architecture. Lastly, 3PAR StoreServ for virtual server environments. This is an area where 3PAR absolutely excels. As I've said a couple of times in this session, virtual server environments deliver extreme random workloads. We typically have an extreme diverse set of workloads as well in terms of small and large I/O requests. This combination of extreme randomness and extreme sizes of workloads, it'll stress a storage array more than any workload can stress any storage array available. So the ability to implement complete striping, the ability to support mixed workloads, the ability to detect zeros in the hardware and very quickly zero out a newly created virtual machine, the ability to efficiently reclaim a deleted virtual machine, the ability to provision a LUN and to present it to a VMware cluster autonomically in 1 or 2 steps without having to present that volume to all the physical servers. These are all the different areas where 3PAR excels as compared to our competition, and we believe makes 3PAR the absolute supreme storage solution for any virtual server environment. So here we have the entire 3PAR StoreServ family. I'm not going to go through all these details with you. You can pause the webinar here and have a look at this in detail. But we've got a complete range here of the previous F series and then into the brand new 7200, 7400 and our tier 1 service provider high capacity, high performance 10400, 10800. The beauty of this family is they all share the same operating system, the same features, same management console, same replication software. You can replicate and migrate data between any members in this family. You don't have to learn new skills to manage the new 3PAR arrays. They're all All the same technology, the same look and feel, and customers just love them. So overall, HP 3-pass StoreServ storage is all about eliminating storage boundaries. We want you to be able to achieve your goals. We don't want these artificial technology boundaries between high-end, between mid-range, to be making life difficult for you. We want you to be able to support, very unpredictable extreme workloads and multi-tenancy in a very simple, efficient, and agile storage infrastructure for your enterprise. HP Storage with HP 3-pass StoreServ is the premier storage platform on the planet today to deliver IT as a service and virtualization solutions. Thank you very much for your time today, and I'd welcome any opportunity to engage with you in the future. Again, thank you for your time and best wishes.